I call the meeting to order. The only thing it looks like that we really need to amend is on 24-142. Needs to say 25-142. So if there is a motion to approve the agenda with that amended.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Tim McPhee with the motion. Megan Rippey second. To amend the agenda. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Move on to open forum. Nobody signed up. Doesn't look like. Was Dale in here?
Ah.
Yeah, he was here, but I don't know if they sent out.
Clear? Okay, moving on.
Mr. Meeting Mayor. He was.
Have the consent agenda, the minutes, payment of claims. And it looks like we have accept some donations, $2,000 from the Verbis Family Charitable Fund, Dwayne and Cheryl Verbis, and $500 from VAP Construction for a kindergarten field trip.
I had a question on the payments. It was more about, I can't think of what it was now. The gas bill at the elementary school, is it different than Midwest Energy? It's like a,
Oh yeah, it's not. It's a transfer company. It's a
okay. So we're paying a transfer company and Midwest?
well.
for the gas?
I don't know what is it. It doesn't actually go to Midwest for the gas. Is that correct, Em?
Is that the?
There's definitely an elementary one on Midwest.
Wood River Energy.
Yeah.
That's the. So in February of 21, it was when they jacked the bill up way higher for the. There was that cold snap,
Yeah.
and so we had. I
Price
can remember.
gouging?
Huh?
The price
Yeah, and so that company dropped KSAB, and then
Okay.
Wood River is who KSAB aligned with, and we aligned with the KSAB plan, and
Okay.
so
So it's not paying for gas, it's paying for
the-
something different?
No, it's the gas.
Okay.
At that.
So basically that's a payment on the price gouged gas when it got cold.
Yeah, we've always done that. Before Wood River.
I think I've
it
asked
was-
about it before too.
Yeah, before Wood River, it was, I can't even remember.
Okay. That was the only question I had.
But yeah, it's been a monthly bill since I've been here.
Yeah.
Is there any other insight on the donations?
The Verbis family, that's been a pretty normal $2,000, and it's just kind of how the district sees fit.
They donate it every year.
Yeah, it's already done.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
We're $100 from Diane.
Finally caved and got her done,
I think Susan.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's been an adventure and it hasn't even been 2 weeks.
huh? Mm-hmm.
Cause you're right-handed? Uh-huh.
Looks a little dry and purple.
It's,
Are there any other questions on the consent agenda?
Sure.
Oh.
Do you have any questions on the?
no. On the bills?
On the bills.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're-
I have one for a
Consent
couple.
agenda.
Are we keeping the, I don't remember what line it is, but there's stuff for that's been part of the construction phase. The Buffalo and the, greenhouse. Are those being paid under what?
We pay,
Are we paying it under our budget, or are they being paid under the construction portion?
I think we said to do the Buffalo and the greenhouse on capital outlay.
They are.
Why is that? Because I guess the way I look at it is if we go over, we go over, but that's part of all the construction phases, isn't it?
Mhm.
I mean, that's, the way I see it is it's one way to hide funds of what was being used to actually build the school.
I don't think we're trying to hide anything. It's just
They're out of capital outlay, they're out of our capital outlay budget, whether they wanna go for
Well, is it, I mean, we did
insurance
it,
or whatever it's not.
it wasn't anything McCown Gordon or
No.
anybody scheduled.
Like where they're being kept or the
Stored or
removing
what
of them or whatever
The
you,
removing of them.
why isn't that part of the construction and prepping them? Because,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 006184, 006191, 006235. Sorry, 6235, yeah.
And doesn't it make sense to not spend it out of the?
Well, yeah, because from my perspective, I understand it. It should be, if it's part of the construction, it needs to be part of the construction phases, and it is.
because we wouldn't be removing it otherwise.
Well, the demo and all that come out of, construction.
Which the demo of the greenhouse would be the same thing, right? So
Oh, no. That came out of capital outlay. Because that was insurance money. Insurance money is through,
So is the insurance money covering this as well?
no,
So do you see what I'm saying? Like, I get that it came out of capital outlay, that's because the insurance money was put in there, right?
yeah, but we're also paying part of the demo out of capital outlay, just regular capital outlay money.
So it's not being identified as, which demo part?
What the overage from what we got to what it actually cost.
Did anybody else? I guess I missed that one.
How much are we over for the just
It's a-
demolition?
About 200,000. Is
Yeah, the demo was, what, that 470 or something, or?
no, the demo
Because we
was
took out
around,
the north, the
900,000.
south side?
and we got 750,000.
Okay, that's what I meant.
South
Yeah.
side in the weight room piece, correct?
Yeah, the rest of it was through the overall piece of it, but or included in the overall budget piece.
Does my question make sense?
Time you got here.
Yeah, I'm,
It's all how you want to articulate it. If you want to articulate it as, but that's overages a part of the construction. I think it
I
should
know,
be
but-
identified for,
but why
because
do-
of use of public funds.
but then it just makes the budget of the school rebuild less.
But that
Then
shouldn't
we
be
can use
counted
capital A
in.
at that point, but we're tucking it under there, not putting view on it of what it's actually costing.
I think that we can use it for, we can do it either way, but it makes sense for some things to come out of capital outlay, which has been very,
I apologize for that.
was this around $5,500 or so?
Well, I guess I didn't realize that the portion of the demolition, I thought that was covered by insurance, but, and
Well,
I
know we were
apparently
because
missed
we had to
that.
pull off that,
It was, we were just,
because
it
when
did
we
cover it
initially
all.
went through that, we weren't even talking about the south side or,
So,
I think we've talked about the south side the whole time. It's been an ongoing
just
discussion.
the wrestling room,
just the wrestling. No,
or the weight room, sorry.
yeah,
That was the extra 200,000.
No, it was the whole bid was over. What we got from the insurance company.
which wouldn't have been such a big deal had we not, cleaned it all to begin with,
Are you accounting for it on your spreadsheet?
which is, what a waste.
Um,
I gotta get some glasses.
yeah, that would be accounted through just, I had a projected amount, that we would spend each year, just on items within the district through capital outlay.
I mean,
It's not an addition.
is it itemized?
No, I don't have it itemized right now. It's just an overall look to estimate moving forward.
In 6 months, if I wanted to look back and say, how much has the construction project cost up until this point? You couldn't identify, could you, let me rephrase that. Could you identify it and would it bring those numbers into it as well?
No, I don't have it
No.
in there. I mean, we can put what we have for, if there is, I mean, we have the small one, I guess, through capital outlay. I'm trying to think.
Hadn't we talked about having a spreadsheet that we could be able to
So then,
separate all of this to where it is more
It's been
transparent to
discussed.
where?
Yeah.
I think that was requested 3 or 4 months ago.
We have a spreadsheet. We just,
It's not accurate.
I mean, I have a variety of spreadsheets to show.
so then by this argument, are you saying that when our insurance isn't covering the modulars anymore, then that money?
It should be identified as part of the construct. I mean, it needs to be identified in some fashion.
Yeah, I have no problem.
I think it should be because that's being like, this is what it's costing
Part of the
us.
process.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just,
But why are we adding something that we have money in capital outlay that's going to take away money from the project?
because
It's
it's part of the
part of it.
project.
Because all of a sudden now we've added.
Then we might as well use all the
No,
capital
let me
outlay.
talk. We've added $400,000 to our budget that we can cover through capital outlay. We went through this last month. We talked about this, and I told you I have a spreadsheet that accounts for it. I know this is hard to see, and I can put it in our board folder. Excuse me. But I do have it accounted in there. I mean, it's estimates right now.
I think if we have the opportunity to be able to look at it as an entire situation, because that's what it is, whether it's,
So this is an overall view of capital outlay, this spreadsheet. If you see this one here, I know it's hard to see.
okay.
But I broke it down. Honestly, I did it by, if we stayed at 8 mils, 6 mils, and 4 mils. Terry and I have talked a lot about that as far as mill levy. Do you remember us talking? So that's why I wanted to break it out so we saw what our, projected balances could be, moving forward. And then we do have another spreadsheet. It does need to be, I'll be honest, it needs to be updated. But the reason it needs to be changed is so that it kind of goes back to that one was meant to be for the project, and it needs to, I guess, show. I'm sorry, I'm losing my thought. It needs to show what's truly project money and truly like insurance. What I have here is I have our regular capital outlay money, our insurance money. Like I'm talking, when I say insurance, it's demo and then the modulars and then the fire replacement. And then the project is for the building. I'm sorry. So I have it broken out. But when we have our regular capital outlay, I mean, we have projected out, receiving around 430,000, 415,000 plus interest money that we should be able to get. But I have like demo over insurance here. That's what this line is here to, so that it shows what we have. And then when we have expenditures, we have kind of regular capital outlay expenditures. And I have a hard time believing that we're going to spend all that money. So yeah, there's some flexibility we can use with it. If you want me to go through and have it outlined where it's coming from, yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
I think it needs to be identified if this is part of a construction project.
Yeah, I can put together a worksheet that shows that.
And I mean, no offense, but zooming back and forth through all this, I'm gonna say I'd have to go through and be able to actually study it a little bit more. I know.
And I understand. I'll put it in our board folder for it.
Wouldn't it, I mean, I know if we have it in a capital outlay, but why wouldn't we look at it, like Matt said, as the whole project then, to be able to say, when we are done with this, we are gonna be, because it's just gonna be the fact of the matter, we are gonna be over some.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Matt. Are you wanting just a spreadsheet that's not necessarily where the funds are coming from, but how much money is being spent for the project? I'm just.
You can look, no,
Okay.
I think that it needs to, if it's part of the construction, I don't think it should be being pulled from capital
I
outlay,
got you. Okay.
personally.
Okay.
And I think that we're gonna find we're gonna need that capital outlay for many other things as we continue. And if we don't spend it, then it can still be used potentially as the new school build, right?
To be able to cover
so.
what we're lacking.
So I would rather spend it in the end and not in the front, so that it shows actually what we're spending. Because right now, if I was looking at it from the outside, I'd look at it as, well, you're trying to hide 5,000 here, 10,000 there, 200,000. That's how I look at it. I'm playing devil's advocate, I know, but that's not true representation of what the project's costing. That's a fact.
But I mean, we don't have all the money that insurance has kicked in on above and beyond what they have already,
We should be showing that. It should be there, showing it.
Sure.
But what the construction project costs, it should be, I don't, that's just my thought is, it's not a true representation of what the project is costing. Again, my opinion, but
I don't know where it should be accounted for, but it needs to be accounted for.
I mean, we can use it.
Yeah. I was thinking that you were wanting a sheet, just like a job cost sheet. X dollars for this, X dollars for that. That's what I was thinking. And I see what you're saying now.
I'm trying to think of an analogy to you, but I can't right now. That's just, like I said, I don't think it's being what I would consider as transparent in my mind.
I mean, it would be difficult to dig up numbers to show what we've spent, what we've got, what
Yeah,
we're spending the whole way.
Okay. That won't be a problem.
And should we be taking this out of capital outlay? I mean, there's it's not $5,000 or $6,000. It's almost 30 grand.
So like 4,500 for greenhouse demo and like 800 or
Not even
900.
1,000 for the.
What about the relocate gas connections, pipe insulation, ag shop, greenhouse? Did we have to do that before? Was that a need before for $18,228.01 for Midwest Energy? I hope our gas bill's not that much.
Is that from the work this summer? Is that what?
Yeah.
Did it come out of capital outlay?
It's under a fire project line.
There's some of this that's gonna come out through there. Just, I mean, almost everything we've paid. Now there is some for the project. Don't get me wrong, but almost everything we've paid has to come out of there to show, like fire replacement for the insurance and things like that. Like the modulars have to come out. Have to come out of there because that's how we get reimbursed for it.
So, again, that line item, I mean, was it part of, because of the construction? I mean, it says greenhouse on there, or was it just, you see what I'm getting at? It's not $5,000 or $6,000, it's,
That's what you were talking about before. That's how I got that. I had forgotten.
well,
about that.
I think I read that number off. But that's here nor there, maybe I didn't. I'm just saying, there's a list of items, and where is it coming from? What is it? Why? Who, what, when, why, where, how?
We'll put together a spreadsheet showing where it's all coming from.
And is it, well, I mean,
I think if you take that away, you're taking away some of our flexibility that we're gonna have. And
well, your flexibility on what?
to getting things completed. I mean,
We can use this now or we can use it later, right?
use
Capital outlay.
Capital
Well,
outlay.
sure,
So how does it take the flexibility away if you can still utilize it later?
because we've had flexibility with having like insurance funds and things like that, and you're taking away, you know,
I mean, you've had the insurance money in a interest-bearing account, right?
CD, yeah.
the CD.
So you haven't been able to use it anyways.
I thought you was indicating that some of the insurance money was put in the capital outlay account.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
has to be put in the
All
capital.
right, so you got,
But we've already spent that, correct?
For the demo, yes, not any. I mean, there's some of it that we spent, but not near all of it.
Well, in theory, it shouldn't take away any flexibility because we're gonna have to pay it in the beginning or the end. So and there's some truth to what Matt said. It needs to be, people need to be able to say, okay, this came from here, this came from there. Because chances are we may be running short in the end anyhow, regardless, the way this has gone so far. And just to be able to help everybody's understanding in the process, I think it needs to be a little bit clearer.
I'll put together a spreadsheet, like I said, to show where it's come out of, and
So how many more things will come out at capital outlay, do you think? That we,
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't expecting a lot. Those are just a couple smaller items that seemed appropriate for capital outlay to me.
it's like 26, 27,000. Just asking. That's the way I view it. And I think it's part of the project, so it needs to be identified that way.
Well, I believe we've been made aware of need a way to see the funds. So if you can put that together for us.
Yeah.
So with that, is there a motion for the consent agenda? If there's any other questions?
Any questions? I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, Tim with the motion, Weiner with the second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
With much appreciation for the donations. Right? Is that
Yes.
everything?
Yep, everything. All those opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on. Weiner, you want to take it from here?
I can do it. We'll move on to 25-140. Is that where we're at?
Yes, sir.
Discussion action on approval of vehicle purchase.
Okay, so, the sheet, everything's the same except, we went the Tubbs and Son. Let's see about the lease. This is for Jeff and Lacey.
Sorry about that.
So the Tubbs and Son, their prices are the same. I asked with them to match the Shawnee Mission Ford. The difference in that, They said they couldn't. The lease option through them, it was 60 months for 20,000 miles. So basically it's, for the Expedition is $986.94 and the Explorer $682.73. So the total cost over the 5 years is here, or is listed, and then the residual is if we want to buy it back at the end of the lease, basically, or we can turn it in. But both of those costs are higher, not by much, but I guess the Expedition is quite a bit higher. The Explorer's fairly close. And remember last month we talked about the different options. We had a recommendation for option C from Tubbs and Son for $96,749.80. It is a little less than $2,000 more than Shawnee Mission, but I mean, you're gonna lose some of that when you drive to go get it and things like that. We did hear last week that they called Tuesday, or when I think it was Tuesday, asking if we had, or they're telling us that they had received an email from Ford that they were going to stop taking orders within the next 2 weeks for fleet type vehicles. I told them our meeting was today or tonight, and so they're worried that, or they told us then they didn't know if it would still be open or not. It just said it would close anytime within the next 2 weeks. So we'd have to check tomorrow to make sure if the board approves it. But our recommendation would be to do option C.
What are we replacing?
Both of these would basically be an addition.
An addition?
Yeah. I mean, we might get rid of like a minivan or the red car, but I mean the transit vans, we still use them, and we're putting all, with really those two being the main ones we're taking to activities. We're putting a lot of miles on them. The Suburbans, we do take them out pretty close places, but one we're primarily using, well, I hate to say primarily, but we're using it to push snow. That's where we put the snow pusher on it. And then we'd like to keep the other one. That's a good one to send out on routes. And it's also a good one if we get something stuck to have that available to go out and pick it up or get it out. I know one of the minivans we use, a bus driver takes it, so he can leave the bus here. He lives in Herndon, so he leaves the bus here during the day and he drives the minivan back and forth. We have used one a few times, or some for activities. I know I drove it once to a deal, but I also know it's broke down a few times on the road as well. So that would
get rid of one of them.
That would probably be the one that we could get rid of. And then I would say the red car. The only thing with that is it's what we use for driver's ed, so we'd have to. I mean, it'd be, I guess, taking the Explorer, or maybe I guess.
Better keep the car.
Well, and you can hear it coming too, so it's kind of nice.
The car?
Like a warning.
Is something dragging?
Something's not right. No,
Backup beeper.
So we've been getting by with the number of vehicles that we've got without any issues.
Well, I don't say that.
hanging
I
on
wouldn't-
by a thread.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say
I
we're.
mean, there's times everything will go out and, we're taking our own vehicles, which I mean,
That was my question the last time we discussed that. I guess I don't understand why an individual
Well-
wouldn't wanna drive their own vehicle.
Well, cause I have a
Sometimes it's not
2010
us.
pickup that makes 12 miles to the gallon.
Right, and sometimes it's not us three, like, I don't know what Susie, Melissa, and Marcy took last
I
week.
think they took a Suburban.
Okay, because like, when you send some staff members out for a school activity, I mean, technically, shouldn't that be with a school vehicle, like I don't know. I feel more comfortable, like, if one of my teachers had to go do something, knowing they were, I don't know, covered by something.
Well, it comes down to how many trips, how many miles is put on it by staff. All right, the other end of it is what's the mileage rate, 58 cents?
67, 66 and a half or 67.
67?
I think it'd be cheaper for them to drive our vehicles than it is theirs. It should be, the vehicle
I'll
of choice should be.
drive the hell out of my vehicle, but I've been taking.
Well, but there's like, I mean, I'll take my pickup, but it's, you know, there might be some people that don't have a vehicle or in a circumstance where they don't have a vehicle that they trust.
Something
to go
that's
that way.
reliable enough to get there.
Liability would be one
Driving to
thing.
school and.
2025 mileage, approximate, if I did my numbers right here. It's about 10,321 miles, just with mileage. And I know I had one on there for this month, so I don't know if that was on that mileage, because that was before.
That's what you pay out, or
What we've paid out is there, but we've put on or on personal vehicles, 10,321 miles.
In this last school year.
Just from the start of the year till, I don't know if it's now or a month ago.
Oh, I got you.
But I mean, there's like, it's not all the time, but you know, we went to the art show, we took 2 transit vans. And then if there's a golf meet, you know, where they take it, I mean, there's times
Plus
when,
our afternoon bus route.
Yep. I mean, we definitely do not have an excess of vehicles.
No, I understand that, I'm just talking about the staff using one of them for how often, how many miles does the staff put on a
I think it
vehicle
would just
going to a
be-
meeting?
I don't know if you have a lot of teachers that use a vehicle unless
Mhm.
there's students with them.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would say too, when we talked about this last time, we discussed if we just have one vehicle for staff, there's probably going to be we're still probably going to have some mileage, because if I'm going somewhere and Jeff is going somewhere, we're going to have to choose who takes the vehicle compared to who takes their personal
Can I
vehicle.
ask a question just to clarify? So we have a staff member a bus driver that takes one of our vehicles
Mhm.
to Herndon to drive home?
Instead of driving the bus back and forth.
For during the day.
So it'd be miles anyways, it's just not on the bus, it's on another vehicle.
That's been that way for a long time,
Yeah, I think
unfortunately.
I think I actually worked at the school when they started doing that because of the consolidation thing that happened. And,
It's cheaper than driving.
it was that
bus.
Herndon route. Yeah, they were trying to save the wear and tear
I
on the
bet,
bus.
yeah.
And
back and
keep a
forth.
driver.
Do what?
And to keep a
When
driver.
I got here, we had two drivers who did the Herndon bus, or they rode that same vehicle together, but they did different. One did the Herndon route, and then one did another route.
So I gotta ask you guys, the Explorer, I don't know the point of the Explorer, I guess. We can either get a car or an Expedition. The car will haul 4 people and so will an Explorer. It won't haul any more than 4, will it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The Explorer will?
I mean, kids, I don't know, I would ride in the back seat for
Yeah,
sure.
I had my-
You can get 7. We've got an Explorer. You can get 7 people
Well,
in it. I didn't say comfortably.
I don't think you can get 7 in rows.
Yeah, there's if they're
Maybe there is.
kids, it'd be easier to get in there than adults. But you're not gonna get me in the back seat. I guarantee you that.
I think I was kind of thinking too, with it primarily being the staff vehicle would get a little bit better gas mileage too.
Well, I can see that, but
And there's times that having a smaller vehicle taking kids somewhere is a good thing too. Just if we have 3 or 4 kids and just having, probably been times that we've sent a transit van with that. I don't know the kids.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to get too much luggage in that Explorer. I'm just saying, there's a little bit you can get. There's seating for 7.
Really?
There's 7 seat belts,
Yes.
whether you can fit or not.
That's,
Should we try? Should we all go on a trip?
Or you can get in
I'll
there.
drive.
We just have a meeting in the car.
I'll take my truck.
So what is the need at this point?
We're riding together.
Absolute need.
I always did like that mileage when I was traveling, cause I put money in my pocket.
The Expedition was, yeah.
You wanna make a motion?
Right? Is it,
I mean, we can always still keep doing the mileage, but you're asking employees to put wear and tear on their vehicles when you're doing that, and
I think.
I mean,
what's the liability on the school for something like that as well?
yeah, that's something I've never asked about.
Well, as long as they're not hauling kids, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't allow.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah, they wouldn't
it's,
be able to haul them in their first.
It's their own liability at that point, if they're paid per mile.
And I would say too that, yeah, it's those 2 years of mileage, but I can attest that these 2 years are probably some of our least amount of going places just with our situation. Last year I didn't go to Oakley for admin council. They have a thing called Council of Soups that I usually go to 1 or 2 a year on. I didn't go to any of those last year.
so if you had to guess, by adding these 2 vehicles, what reduction do you think could be from those numbers, from them paying out
Well,
mileage?
I think
Would it be
it would
negligible?
really come from the Explorer, but I would bet it would be at least 2/3. It would just depend on what activities we have going out compared to what other things we have going on.
if we're to purchase these 2, I guess I'd say purchase these 2 and get rid of 1 at least. How does that affect us for updating a bus? Buses are getting a little rough.
I mean,
Well, the route buses are, they're honestly in pretty decent shape. The oldest one is the 2016 Herndon bus. The rest of them are 2017 or newer, with 2 in 2017, 1 2019, and then 2 2020 or 21. The main one is the activity bus. That's the big one. Just that the cost is $94,900, and like I showed you before, with capital outlay, I have $120,000 a year just budgeted in that for vehicles, and I'm not saying spend all that, because there'll be years we spend less than that, and just to build that up.
For new purchase, or is that cover all vehicles?
No, that's new purchases.
It was said that we got 2 or 3 buses that's coming on 25 years old, that's gotta be taken out of service.
Those are backup buses.
Yeah.
They're backup buses.
Our route buses are good for a while, but the backup buses are the ones.
But as those backup buses phase out, we need to
Then you need to move.
have more backup and replace the route buses, right?
Yeah, Trevor went through and,
Wasn't
We
it
had that before.
28?
yeah, he had replacing one, which is
Until
the
28.
0217 here in the next couple of years.
Next
The end of 27.
Yeah.
And then,
Next year.
Year or two, yeah.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, we don't have to get a brand new bus on those either. We sold one of ours, when I first got here to Quinter, that we did on Purple Wave, and it was Quinter who bought it. It was one that didn't really, it was a smaller regular bus that didn't really fit what we needed at the time. So that was one we got rid of. But yeah, there's other ways to get buses besides buying a new one,
Well, I think
especially if it's a backup.
in the schedule Trevor has set up, I mean, this is kind of what accounted for this year with the buses and the, the crosshairs for the next couple of years.
He was going by, what was the mileage on them? You couldn't go over,
Oh yeah, he rated them all, A to,
yeah,
right?
but you couldn't go over so many miles on a bus.
I know. Trying to remember.
What that was. Yeah, the only one that wasn't limited would be the activity bus.
Well, I would think,
Miles.
No, it's not
buses
miles,
get the
it's,
most mileage
age.
Say that again.
I said that, I would think that the activity buses get the most mileage. And particularly since Old Red cannot be utilized for long trips. So the other one is catching the brunt of the load.
Well, Mr. President, I will move to approve the Tubbs and Sons quote for $96,749.80. Is that right? Pending,
Option C,
option C, pending that they are still available.
What colors?
White.
there's motion to proceed with option C from Tubbs and Sons. Is there a second?
I'd second it.
Motion and a second to approve option C. All those in favor? All opposed?
Abstain.
Uh, 25-141, new business. School calendar.
All right. In your packet is a copy of the calendar. This is going to take a little bit longer than normal. Just there's some academic things listed in here that just so you kind of have so the board has some understanding of why we have some things in here. It's honestly back to a more traditional calendar in some ways. In other ways, it is different. So actually, if you guys can see that, let me just go through this presentation here real quick.
Not even close.
All right, so we had two options. We're going to recommend option B. That's a traditional Thanksgiving break.
Presentation, please.
Option A had the Thanksgiving week off like what we've had the last couple of years with a later end of the school year. Option B had the traditional spring break with an earlier end of the school year. Option B had the most votes. There weren't a lot of comments either way. I think I had 2 comments on there. On that, so kind of some highlights of the year. Staff reports on the 15th, August 15th. First day of school is the 20th. November 26th to 28th is the Thanksgiving time. December 20th through the 4th is the winter break. Spring break, I should note that's the university spring break, which we've just followed that. Graduation, I did leave it on Saturday, so that's May 9th, if you remember. The board moved that earlier this year. And then May 15th would be the last day of school. Conferences, this is a bit of a change from what we've had. When I first got here, we had conferences just during, like on a Friday during the normal school day, basically. And then the last couple years, and we've had them in the evenings, two evenings. And so these would run from 1 to 8 on one night for each set. So October 27th and March 10th. So we would dismiss school at 1 o'clock on those days, and then conference till at 8 o'clock, basically. In-service dates, you will see that there are more in-service dates throughout the year. In our KISA process, our district was, we were required to develop goals for school improvement, and our team chose professional collaboration. And we set a goal of having 8 professional collaboration opportunities. And this is to review our student assessment data. We've been taking a lot of data, it's just finding the time to really dive deep into it. And so the KISA team has developed a schedule for those, but part of the next step is actually developing a protocol. We don't want people to say, oh, we looked at it and not really done that. So the in-service days, August 15th, which is a Friday, would just be our regular beginning of the year in-service. August 18th would be a full day, the 22nd a full day. This October 13th would be a possible NWKL in-service in Colby. If that one happened to not happen, we would just turn that into a regular school day, which we'd need to go back to the board to approve. So October 31st.
How soon would you know on that?
I would think we'd know before the end of the summer.
Okay.
That is a good question.
I was thinking the same thing.
The 31st, October 31st. So since we only are having conferences from 1 to 8, we only need to make up like half the time for the teachers instead of having a full day off that we typically have in the conferences. We would go to have like an in-service professional collaboration on the 31st from 8 to 12. November 12th, we did have 2 of these where we didn't feel like we needed the whole day. A lot of schools, and that's a Wednesday, a lot of schools every first Wednesday of the month, their kids just dismiss. That's a rule that they have to go over this data. In my situation where I taught, that's what we actually met every Wednesday, but the first Wednesday of the month, we dismissed early. The 19th and the 9th are professional collaboration. Those are traditional, or I say traditional, we always have an in-service in January and February, along with the 22nd of September. March 9th is professional collaboration from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And we did that because we thought we'd have better attendance for that. Is that Monday night? That's the week we typically have our spring conferences before spring break. And we've typically had that Friday off before. From what I understand, there's like a state youth wrestling that weekend and things like that we were afraid we'd lose staff for to go to. So we thought we'd have better attendance and things like that on Monday evening. And then the 22nd was dismissal, was a 1 o'clock dismissal as well. So the KISA team has set, what we would be doing during those collaboration days. So August, I mean, I don't need to go through all of these, but in August we're looking at the prior year's data to get us a start. September we're looking at, by then we should have our new FastBridge data for the current year. Progress, do you guys know what progress monitoring is? Progress monitoring is, so we put the kids into groups and we're still assessing how they're doing. And it's taking that, and like when you have a kid who, let's say they're missing a phonics skill, and you've had a couple weeks where you've worked with them and you do some just testing within your group, maybe they've mastered that skill. They don't need to stay in that group forever. So that's how we move that kid on to the next skill that they need to work on. And so that's in there. And it just goes on down the list. Eventually into the winter time, we're working on getting ready for state assessments. So in February, you see where it says interim data, and the interims are basically practice tests for the students to get ready for this Kansas State assessments. And that's how teachers can track how their kids are doing overall. They can track how that kid's doing on a specific standard and make accommodations to meet their need if they're missing something. And it just goes on throughout the rest of it. Jeff, Lacey, do you guys have anything to add on that?
No, we're hoping to do interim testing in the fall and then again in the early spring, so that the Kansas State assessment questions are kind of worded interesting. We teach it a certain way, and then you'll get the question on a test, and it's asking the same thing, it's just worded differently. So with the interims, we can see how they're wording those, so that we can kind of address, see, this is something you really do know. It's just asking you in a different way. So then we can kind of take it and help them see that it's the same thing. So that's hopefully going to be helpful.
Any questions? You guys have?
Can I make a request? I know that I've heard quite a few parents. Can we get back to a paper calendar?
That was gonna be my request.
Please, pretty please. Technology's great sometimes, but it really kind of sucks.
Well, we've done it the last 2 years just because.
I know, because we've had things adjusting, and I think we're finally get back to where we have a new normal, but I think it would be.
I mean, to me, on those games that you don't know where it's gonna be or the time it
You can
starts, I
just
mean, you
put
at least know the date, just put
Just
TBD.
TBA.
Yeah,
TB what?
determined.
Oh, there you go. There you go, that one works too. Announced, determined. That's one thing I think I've heard a lot of parents say is we need that calendar back. And yes, you can go back and get on there and try and print it off, but it doesn't always seem to print the way you want it to. So I think that's one thing we should at least provide for the families that do we get funds for the school. So it's a small thing.
Okay. So the option A we were actually good on, but the option B, the one that's recommended, I had messed up. I had the numbers wrong on it, so I was 2 days short.
No wonder why they liked it so much.
Yeah, no wonder. And so I did go and talk with Mrs. Klein, that she's KNEA president, just to kind of go over the two kind of ideas I had to make up those 2 days. One is to add the 2 days back into the calendar, and the recommended ones are February 27th. That's when I say tradition, I mean since I've been here. That's what I'm saying. That day's we've had off, and then the last day of school, how it was sent to them was on Thursday, and then they'd have their work day on Friday. And this would just bump it a day where they'd have the last day of school on Friday, and then they'd have their work day on Monday. And so that's that's the one option. And then the other, I know we're a long ways from this. I just, and maybe I'm thinking too far ahead on this, but, you know, the idea is to have a portion, or we've been told the idea is to have a portion of the school ready for kids to come back the next year, so we can get rid of the modulars. But in that, you know, that would allow staff 2 days to pack up their modular classroom. Obviously, that would just be the high school staff. We'd have to, I'm sure Lacey can figure out something for the.
Just send the elementary teachers out there to help.
And it would just be packing it up. It would just be packing it up. It wouldn't be moving because it wouldn't be ready for that first schedule. But it's also something that we can wait till later on. You know, we can do option A and then see how we're progressing till December or January, and then change it when.
I thought everybody wanted option B.
Yeah,
But he's 2 days short.
these are just two options
Oh, on these.
in addition
Okay.
to option B. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know that I really even have a recommendation. I mean, other than I guess it makes sense to pass it maybe as option 1, and then those are 2 dates that if we get into the process further and it's looking like we'll be able to move in, then we can make an adjustment, you know, in the winter or something like
Yeah,
that.
because the 2 days you're proposing are end of February and May, so
Mhm.
maybe you'll know more.
We can look at that later.
Yeah,
We need a motion for option B on the calendar.
yeah, and then with
You said you polled the teachers on that? What was the result?
it was for option B.
I know.
I did not pull them on this one.
You, okay.
He
On
wants to see the numbers from your poll.
From A and B.
Well, I
Right?
don't really
Is that
need
what
to see,
you're-
I was just curious if it were,
That's what you were asking.
yeah, what's the ballpark?
Yeah,
Was
They're
it-
like a 51.
yes, 50.
44.
Yeah,
There you go.
this is actually the closest calendar we've had on the
Yeah,
phone since
it was. Still, in my opinion, that's pretty close.
I mean,
It's 3 difference between them.
did you vote?
I don't ever vote on
I
this.
didn't either, so.
And what we've got in front of us is B.
Yeah. And I know this is getting confusing, but the option 1 is included in that. What I put in front of you with that state wrestling 27th off, or not off, having school that day, and then the end of school, like what we talked about.
And what about adding an earlier day for start?
That gets hard just because between enrollment and the start of the school, the offices, they have a lot of work to do.
Can you
Susan
move
had a lot
enrollment?
to say
too?
about that. No.
No.
We also have a lot to say about that, because if you move enrollment, you're gonna have to move the first day that she's contracted back. Because August 1st is a Friday, and she needs several days to get ready for enrollment, so you're gonna have to do, it's just a mess with the way that, the calendar kind of falls this year, with August 1st being a Friday.
Okay,
That was an idea, but
Yeah,
we thought that
yeah, we did talk about it.
Discussion, questions, motion for the calendar option B?
Just to ask, what did it look like for like state volleyball, state?
We did look it through. I think we kind of tried to match it up from last year. And so there's some interesting choices on there, but
Will it be
regards-
fair for
Yeah.
all?
I
Okay,
think so. I think everything was kind of looked at with.
okay. That's always just a
That in
question
mind.
we get, you know.
Yeah,
so like
Yeah.
state volleyball
October.
is I think it's Halloween actually, is when it would fall, and that would be when we have the collaboration day.
Okay.
And then
and regional or what sub-state, depending on what the schedule looks like.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's great that we have that opportunity to be able to allow that day off for state wrestling, but it's also
Right, for volleyball,
Mhm.
basketball.
it needs to be,
Well, and I think basketball in March is always kind of interesting in there too.
it's usually, a show
That's-
anyhow.
Kind of why we wanted to have, or I was thinking it'd be good. These days would be safe to have them in case we did have that. Because we have had where we've had state volleyball.
Well, like I said, it was just a question, because it's usually a question we get at some point through the process, so.
Like, why is it happening?
Why is it just for one and not the other? And then we can say, hey, but it's not.
It is. We
So,
try. We're guessing on when things are.
I know this will end it, but every other year we've made state volleyball. I've been here, and this is the year to make it. So.
All right, so we better start making.
Mr. President, I will move to approve option B for the calendar. Yeah, I think that's all.
Do a motion to approve option B for the calendar presented. Is there a second?
a second.
And a second for the option B on the calendar. All those in favor? All opposed?
Knocking them down.
B is set class size
Make it
limit for
better.
non-resident students.
All right, so each year now, and this is our second year that we've had to do this. By May 1, we have to set the class size limits for staff. You guys have this in here. This was the same that we passed last year, exact same, other than unless I missed a year in there. It's basically the same. The only other thing that changed is, so in the policy, or the, whatever you want to call it, it has, how many students that we say should be a max in our classrooms. Obviously we can have more if we have to, but, in that, we have to set, how many students we can accept. And so a year ago we had, so kindergarten is in first grade, we probably don't want quite as many kids per classroom. So we have 2 classes and they have 18 kids each, basically is what we're saying on that. And so, with that, then we're projecting around 32 kindergartners coming in, which would leave us 4 available spots for kindergartners. Our first grade group, which is the kindergartners last year, they're a little bit smaller group, we'd have 12 spots. And then it just goes on down the line. Like what we've talked, our 7th grade group is a really small one, so they have a lot of spots open. And basically what this amounts to is parents during June, if they live out of the district and they want their kids to come to Rollins County, USD 105, they apply to come into the district. And basically, we have to allow them, if they've been suspended or there's some other things in the policy that gives us an out. If they're out of state, we don't have to. We've had a Nebraska family or 2 try to come with us in the past. We don't have to accept out of state. But basically, if they're in good standing in their other school, then we have to allow them as long as we have enough spots available. So if a family comes in and they apply and we have a spot in first grade, then and their kid's in good standing, then we need to allow them in. Now, the other part of that is if they have let me go back. So if we, let's say in kindergarten, have 6 kids apply and we only have 4 spots, then we have to do a lottery, which is basically pull their name out of a hat. And that's how we choose. Now, if we have, if the family has a kindergartner, a 4th grader, and an 8th grader, and the kindergartner gets chosen, then the rest of their kids are automatically one of the ones who are chosen as well. Teachers, if they live out of district, they can we can accept their kids automatically. We don't have to wait. But these numbers are our numbers when the board approves this. And you have to do it by May 1st, basically.
So if you had a family that had 3 kids and one of the grades, there was a spot available, but the other 2 kids there wasn't, you still got to take all of them, or you
No, I think at that point you
say you can't take?
Yeah, you can't take.
I just heard
Because
him
you
say
can't
that you,
exceed that capacity.
Yeah.
yeah, I just heard him say that you have to accept everybody from
I
the
did too.
family.
That was, it's a good thought.
I do think 32 is a little high for kindergarten, so I think we still have some wiggle room there too. I think it might be closer to 30. So. I'm not-
30.
I mean, that's really the main class and
That's all.
second grade. The rest were
Kindergarten's always hard because you don't know who's gonna send for sure. Like they might keep them back one more year. Yeah, so our best knowledge is around 30.
So we just need to approve the class size,
the non-resident capacity.
non-resident capacity.
526, I guess would technically be.
Questions? Did you have a motion, anybody, for the non-resident student capacity size on class limits? Could have said that backwards, but.
I make a motion that we accept and set the class size limits for non-resident students. As presented.
I have a motion, is that a second? To accept these class size limits, all those in favor? All opposed? We go on to C, summer food program.
Okay, this is just the same as what we've done. We haven't found anything that says, is this a state or a fed? I think this is federal.
It's federal and the funds have been secured for
This
it.
okay, so we were a little worried that it got cut. It would be the same. I have May 27th, which is, I hope I didn't do that on Monday. I meant for it to be on
I
Tuesday.
think
Is it? Okay. To June 27th. That is a Friday. June 30th is a Monday. I just ended it on Friday. But we can't go into July because that messes with the fiscal year with it. And that should be 12:30. 11:30 to 12:30. We typically need 2 to 3 employees to help out with it. And Emily, we think we have that.
Yeah, Vanessa was pretty confident in that she would have the staff to be able to do it.
Vanessa typically has work during the day, but she's done the ordering for it.
Ordering you.
She still kind of oversees everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And steps in if she needs to still.
Right.
So she does have a couple.
It'd take 2 people to replace her one day.
It always has been there's always a lot of kids, students in it, so
Yeah, it's very.
there's no
well
negatives.
And it's a
No, I don't
necessary
see any negatives.
Yeah.
program for the people that it's necessary for.
Yeah.
Well, and
Very
I'll talk
important.
about summer school later, but we've paired up with summer school too, and so we get done with summer school and a bunch of them go on down there and
The summer play has done that in the past where it's,
because they come up for the play, kind of try to do it at the same time, so.
Mr. President, I will move to approve the summer food program as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the summer food program. All those in favor? All opposed? We'll move on to 24-142, discussion on 105 strategic planning and goals.
I know.
last year or earlier this year, in the past, we've discussed the strategic planning goals for the district. At the time, we're facing the building approvals and things like that, and so the board wanted to wait. And so the costs were $4,000 plus expenses, and I really think this is a way for us to move forward. And I'm going to show you some ideas I've had for goals for us, but just in everything I've done through leadership, there's when you have consensus with your staff, the community, the board, all that, then it's more successful. I'm not saying the building things are behind us because they're obviously not, but we're in a spot now that we can we have more of a capacity to move forward and think how we want to continue building our school district. And so just part of that is you look at your mission statement, and this has been our mission statement. It actually took me a while to find it, not now, but I mean a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. But this is our mission statement. It was made at least 15 years ago. We've never really had a vision statement other than out of the fire came the Buffalo Strong. And I don't know, we've talked a lot about, what do you want out of a Rawlins County graduate? And if you really look at like the statistics of what places of business want, not saying academics aren't important because they are important, but it has a lot of what if you really look at the meaning of this statement, it has a lot of meaning to what I feel like our community wants out of our graduates. And we think it was a teacher who made this in the
Showed up laminated around the building. So if you think of the teacher.
After the fire. So we've kind of latched onto it.
You? I was like, it's yours. It wasn't me. This one wasn't me. Great.
But I really like it. We've showed like groups when they've come in and they think it's a really, they see a lot of, they've told us they see, we should have, I think it was one of the KSAB people when they were here a year ago, they said that should be plastered all over your building basically. And so we've kind of embraced it, I guess, through everything. And I do, from what I've heard, some people are tired of the Buffalo Strong because it reminds them of the fire, and I get that. I think it's a way that we can turn this into a positive and move forward. So just kind of looking at the good things we have, we're progressing on filling our open positions. As of now, I know elementary's full. We may have some other things to talk about, but we haven't been full since my first year here. So, and then we've filled music position. We're in a good spot. We have excellent staff. We have excellent students. The community has shown their support to us. The certified base salary, when I got here the first year, it was $36,250, and now it's $45,000. That's a 19% increase in that time. That's huge. Construction started, things like that. We still have challenges that we need to work on. Return focus to meet the learning and social and emotional needs of our students. We've been working our butts off on that. It's just there's things that we feel like we can move forward and be more focused on that going forward. We still, in saying that, I was talking about our positions. We still have a couple positions that we need to get filled, and go forward. I have the two major disruptions. I am not saying this as an excuse. I'm saying that we've had those, and that's part of what we're seeing. And then our future budgets, we'll talk about this a little bit later too, more in depth, but the SPED funding, the legislature didn't give as much as what was really needed. Enrollment, that's becoming, we've dropped some in the last couple of years, and it's kind of going to come, and that could hurt us going forward. And then I think it's by the January 2027 session, there's going to be a new formula. Now, it could be the same one as what we have, but it has to be addressed by then, and things. And I can just tell you that small schools are really worried about what's going to be included in that. So like I said, there's been some thoughts put in, how do we move forward? And I looked, some of my wording here, this is not done by any means, but and the strategic planning part of this is, these can change because we need to have everybody's input into this. But the goal one is more of our academic. It's our school, what we're doing in school. And for A, I have a possible assessment goal. I'll be honest, I put together a goal that had numbers, but we're getting new test scores, or cut scores. There's just some things that make it really hard to do that, and I didn't want us to get caught on something off of the old assessments. B, fill all of our teaching positions. I think that's vital for us to move forward. Enhancing our systems to meet the learning and social emotional needs of our students. One of those things is making sure we're being intentional about teaching our standards, being intentional about doing our intervention systems with the kids, and moving forward, and then maintaining our accreditation through Keysight. I should add too that by 2027, they're going to be taking some of our assessment scores and holding us accountable to that. Then we get into some of the other items.
That was in 27?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I should add to the cut scores, we aren't going to know those, what Lacey said.
Probably around October is usually what we hear, because that's how we usually get them, is around that time. But the last couple of years, we've been getting them in May, and we're able to send them back home and stuff. But this year, they told us that they want to reevaluate how everyone's doing in the state of Kansas. So it's like a different version of the test, basically. That's why I think the questions are a little bit different than they have been. So they're going to look at everybody on a whole, and then I'm guessing go by 4 quadrants and see where it goes from there. So we'll see where we lie.
When did we get our
Everybody
last?
gets a surprise.
When did we get our last one?
We get them every year. So.
When was it though? We had some here a while back.
Well, we get usually the individual scores more in like May, right after the assessment, and then they'll put together a report card by middle October, sometime in there. That gives kind of the full
That's probably
breakdown.
when we went through all of them.
Yeah.
So, a lot
So
of
nobody
the,
knows how they actually scored,
No.
but it's all done on the computer.
yeah, the kids don't have a clue when they finish it.
I think you would be able to know right today.
Nope.
Oh, I just got done with that test. Well, look what I scored.
I got a,
You would think.
I got like a happy face. Yeah, they have no idea. That's why they did enjoy taking the interims, because we got immediate results that day. And then they could take that information and kind of
When were those?
Actually use
we
it?
did those February. January, February, I think. We did ours the end of January, beginning of February, and then we were able to do, there's mini tests also that you can take anytime. And then we use that in our Stampede time, that's what we call Stampede. And so then, like where they didn't do well on the test, like a certain standard, whether it was rounding or clocks or whatever, and then they were able to kind of practice that. So. But
So you felt like that was worthwhile.
yeah, I'm very curious to see how these scores are, but we're not gonna really know because it's a brand new score. You know, like we won't be able to
Nothing to compare it
we won't
to.
be able to compare it to last year at all.
It seems like they get 2 or 3 years and then change it, and then you have nothing to compare
Yes.
it back to.
That's the way
What-
education
I
is.
don't understand their thinking there.
Yeah. I know. You feel like you finally get on like, okay, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We know how to play this game. And then
Well, not in
we
there.
don't.
They're
That's the
testing
problem,
different.
is
You know,
it's
you like
a game.
at my level, they test them as 8th graders and
Yeah.
then sophomores.
Right, so,
So you can't even, you know,
You
you're
can't
testing
even
the next
track
group of
one
8th
class.
graders. It's hard to compare.
right. So like elementary, it's 3rd through 6th grade will test, right? Only 5th grade does science. And they won't test 5th grade science again until when they're in 8th grade.
I think so, yeah.
So we won't even know, like my 5th graders, if they have retained anything for 3 years, because that's when they'll get tested again.
What part does KASB play in this?
That's not,
Uh,
no. What, are you talking in the strategic planning or
Yeah.
the?
Oh,
So
They-
it costs 4,000 plus expenses. What
They-
part do they play?
They'll come in, Tim, maybe you could explain how the service center did it, but they'll come in and, they'll help lead us into developing the strategic plan. So like, the
Like a
service,
moderator.
Yeah,
They
that's-
guide you through it, they make sure that, you know, if you're taking certain steps to do this, they'll look through that and go, okay, well, you have to do this in order to make this clear. So it's somebody that comes in, they're actually, I don't want to
So
say a
my question on
moderator, but
right, but so,
more like an auditor
okay,
situation. They come in and look stuff over and make sure that everything's good.
not a
facilitating
trainer.
your process.
oh, no, they had a,
They have the trainer too.
yeah, they,
But they look at stuff and make sure it's right.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Like, we have all these in-service dates now
Yeah.
to like,
Yeah, they do trainings.
to look at our data and stuff, but I didn't know.
well, no, it's more like, they'll come in, we'll have group of community members, board members, staff members, and they'll come in and ask like, what does USD 105 do really well? Then they'll ask the question, what do we need to improve on? What would you like to see from the future or in the future? And they'll take that data, and then they have 2 nights where they're doing that type of thing, and then they have also a time where they come and talk to admin about it, and then they'll kind of start developing the plan, and then they'll come and talk to the board about it.
You said 2 nights. How many days is this?
This is the whole process is probably a couple months. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
just going back to the goals, this is more of a,
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So did you participate in that with the,
I was not in on that one.
okay,
I was not in on that group.
heard how?
Where'd you do that at?
That was in Oakley at the service center. Is where we was.
Do you think it provided a good,
I don't know as it would have got done without their. Not to the point where it was. It wouldn't have been as good of a thing without the KSB coming in.
I think it sounds good. It's just figuring a time and
in the past we use, Megan knows Gary Sechrist, but like, I don't know if you know, but he's retiring here, and so I don't know that
They did it for a while.
Yeah, I don't know that Gary would do it for us. It would be another former superintendent that help us out with it.
fair enough.
I'll go through the rest of this pretty fast. But just facilities, completing construction and transitioning to the new building. The transportation plan, I say develop, we kind of had the start, we have the start of that. But moving forward with that. And then C and D is maintenance plan is more of the short term, and then the building, and then the D is more develop like a long term, like what we need to do on more of a long term basis. And that's looking at the whole district in my mind. Communicating with families is really goal 3. And so that's straight off of what we had for goals for the start of the year. And then, I had a goal really for what I see the board is going to be facing the next couple of years. Developing a system to regularly update our policies. Developing a strategy and system for grant funding. There's learning opportunities out there. There's some things out there for the new building and things like that. I think we can be more strategic with what we're doing, and that addressing budget challenges, that new funding formula. In a meeting I was in last week, they're asking for superintendents to volunteer to be on a committee to give ideas to the legislative committee, and I'm going to send an email volunteering for that, because I think that we need some school districts, some representatives from our size of the district, and then just recruiting staff. And I have students on there too. And then just recommendation with us to move forward with the KASB strategic planning. I'd like for us to get back into the why we're all here, which is to look at our how our students are doing, and dive into our assessment data. Like what we've talked about, we won't know the cut scores till later. One thing that we really have to look at is understanding the difference between the grade level, like what Lacey said, and then the cohort data, which would be like the group of kids, the class of 2025, how they've done, and then just developing a consensus on a strategic plan.
Yeah, there's always some wild cards when it comes to testing. Like, for instance, we had a student move in on the first day testing this year. Hadn't been in our school one day, and then we get to test him, and he's on all of our state assessment records now. So like same thing the year before, I think we had a family move in with limited English speaking abilities, and doesn't matter. You get tested throughout it. You're here, this is what you do. So, it's always going to throw off your data a little bit, but everybody gets that. It's always good to know, and that we can look at it too. We don't get, we do get the individual scores, but when you see it as a whole, into the state of Kansas, it's not pulled out like that, but.
Does the KSB, when they do this deal, they get into the student assessments and data and stuff like
I
that?
don't know if they do that. It's more like an overall goal.
Okay.
And then it's more for us to get into that type of. KSD has some, and then the service centers have people that can help us with that, those type of things if we feel like we need it.
I just think in the last 2-3 years that some of the information and education to our kids has been left on the sideline a little bit with everything else going on. And I think that some studied into it, some look into it, get the kids back on track, get our scores back.
That's our KESA goal, basically. Like, that's why we have all this. That way we have to set apart the time to get together as a staff and say, what is the plan? Instead of, we're all running around doing our own thing. Now we are required 8 times to get together and meet and talk about, this is the student, this is what we're seeing in my class, what are you seeing in your class, you know, especially with Jeff, like elementary wise, you know, it's easier for us to get together and kind of talk, but this will make it so that all the stuff has to be there and we're looking at specific things and what our actual, you know, what we're going to do with the actual plan of the next 2 weeks or the next month or whatever. So and because the overall goal with PISA is going to be moving students out of number ones in the state assessment to number twos. Like their goal overall is going to be for the whole state of Kansas to be moving. So what are we going to do that? So this is our step 1. We're going to look at the information and make a plan. So this is our 12-month goal basically, and then we have to set a new goal this fall.
Discussions, questions? What's everybody think of the KSAB strategic planning? What's our thoughts on it?
I think it's always good to have an outside eye come in to look at stuff, and they can always see something that's, you know, internally you might have a blind eye to at that point. Don't even realize you have a blind eye to. Yeah. That's my thoughts on it.
Well, our mission statement hasn't been updated for 15 years. And I'm guessing that's one of the major goals that they have.
I flat think we need some new goals, period, yeah.
Well, and I was part of, I think, when they did that mission statement, and it was all over the place, and it was not organized, and it was staff ran, and that's how you end up with a giant mission statement that doesn't
And then you get
say
7
anything.
paragraphs of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, no. Got my education out. Are we checking that to see the number of parents that are
That's a Chandler
reviewing
question.
their
I know
kids?
that we used it for our parent-teacher conferences, for every single family here. And I've used it for our attendance records that some letters and
Every parent's getting the
the
newsletter.
newsletter that's generated through that.
It has kind of an overall, like, building news, and then it also has their child's information.
Well, that's what I was, the question I'm asking. Can you track how many parents are utilizing it and how often?
I can tell you right now, they did give us some stats. For the elementary school, 94% of our teachers have been logged in. That's higher than the national average. Student-wise is 29%. Guardians is 56%. I think it's usually kind of common, at least down here, where parents don't log in our school quite as often. Teachers have that communication very, very well. Up at the high school, it's 79% usage of the teachers, 23% of the students, guardians is 48%. So
Run them numbers again.
79% for the teachers, 23% for the students, and 48% for the guardians.
If we're using this for the communication thing, why are the teachers not at 100%? Just out of curiosity.
Very good question.
Say that again?
Could you put those numbers
Why are
out?
we not at 100% for teacher usage? If we're gonna put that out there for the means to communicate potentially.
Yeah, it's purchased for that purpose.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it's, sometimes we have people entered in there as teachers that aren't necessarily teachers though, so, but he could probably get us some names.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need names, it just seems
I mean,
weird
not
that
in
it wouldn't be
public,
100%. If that's what we're gonna push is the communication
Yeah.
means, yeah.
That just seems like a low percentage. But then it's not surprising either to me.
How has it been promoted to the parents and staff currently?
We had that,
We did have a
a training with
in-service
with
training,
the teachers.
and that's basically, that was January.
Mhm.
And, they needed, like, basically, here, try this out, see what you think, and then promoted to use for parent-teacher conferences. When I have almost 100%, parent attendance, that's easy for me to show my
Sure.
parents. It's not as easy when the parents aren't showing up at the high school, to promote it, face to face with the parents, so, for high school teachers.
So basically January, was when it was really.
Yeah.
It was really the end of January,
Yeah.
cause
So we don't have a big time frame that we
No.
pushed it, so.
we
No.
ended up delaying it because of everything that happened with that power
Conferences.
I guess what I'm getting at is I
We
can
have
see
a
why maybe the numbers might be lower, but maybe it's promoted again or pushed.
Yeah, we probably do need to put it in more.
Put it at enrollment and push it hard.
Pushed until it's the 100%.
And is this going, this is for admin,
If
is this gonna
This
be,
is best practice, this is what we're doing.
is that going to be used by all teachers then? We're not asking parents to use like different apps to communicate, correct?
I don't know that it's really a communication app that
Well, like, cause
way.
like, well,
I understand what you
It's more
mean,
like
but I
Power
don't.
School. I mean, have you
right,
looked at it?
but
Like,
okay, I thought that was part of it, that they would be able to use that, cause like the Clever, never
Right.
been able to get into that, so I missed
no.
think
tons of announcements for kids and
This
things like
one,
that,
I
that,
mean, technically,
never worked
this
for us.
has, like,
The two different ones?
you should get an email every Friday.
yeah, which I do.
Okay.
Yes.
That
Rather than
that helps the communication, just
Right.
an update, and then it has like the weekly
Junior high.
2 weeks of what's coming up, and then your own kids' activities or like how they perform that week in different
Right.
grades or classes, and if
Missing assignments.
Yeah.
Stuff that's been turned in, grades.
and it
And you
is. I
click
mean,
on
it's
it and
it's
you
given
know
to
that.
you. Does it just do email though, Megan? It doesn't text, right?
I don't think so. But I just was, I think that was a conversation that we'd had
Oh,
about,
Wait, I think it texts you saying to check your email.
Yeah.
So
I get text every Friday. What time, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, a new
Yeah, I
edition of
think
the
it next
Buffalo.
But
Yeah.
that also requires them to actually put their phone number in the
yeah,
contact
this is true.
data.
Yes. 5:30. So,
I mean, it just, yeah.
it's hard, it's hard because I know some parents feel like they've been overwhelmed with different things, like, I don't wanna try this one because I've tried Remind, and I've tried
Well, that's just
Clever,
it.
and I've tried
We-
Seesaw, and I've tried,
We missed so many things and I kept we've always got told, we'll just reload it, delete it, reload it, and it never worked. But that's just,
You obviously need to teach the kids.
junior high.
That's kind of weird that the parents are actually on a computer more than the kids.
just on that.
Right,
The kids don't
It
want to
doesn't
look
count
at
their
it.
Snapchat,
Kids
Facebook,
somehow.
yes,
Instagram.
Yeah.
right, and
That's-
I don't know,
That's what I meant by the trend of
And
it.
when did we put this in?
Yeah.
It didn't start till January.
January? So
Yeah.
we're only 4 months into it.
That's what I'm saying, if it's needs promoted,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe a monthly thing until it's 100%.
I mean, you can get,
I'd like
I
to see
wouldn't really
kids
say
on it more,
lost
too.
in-
Well, how many were in
Website.
elementary?
there's a lot of
29%,
29%.
which is
I think
impressive
that,
if you ask me.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, probably K1 too,
Well, I'm
probably
just saying.
wouldn't be able to get
I
on
think
there.
it's
all, it shows, yeah, it shows all the assignments.
So you're in reality, you're probably
It's a
talking,
great tool.
that's probably half of the
I think we
eligible
need to
kids that would really,
maybe see
if that makes sense.
internally,
Yeah.
hit national
Absolutely.
averages consistently.
I guess I'm saying when I started
I
looking
look
at
at
it,
the little red
I
line.
Fridays next year.
Yeah.
I know what you're
Kid.
saying.
school load
Yeah,
here,
same.
Saturday,
They have to
Sunday,
take
all
kids
those
with
days.
Well,
I mean, you can
that's
do all
right.
that.
I mean, they have kindergarten.
I say, well, hey, Wiener has a good point here. So he's talking about, I assume that this means like the average, national average
average.
of who's getting on there. And They have a lot of that in there between attendance rates
Yes.
and things like that. It provides a lot of good discussion.
I think education is, I mean, we're only 4 months into it, like Matt said, but
I like the attendance piece of it. You pull up your kid and it says their attendance and how much more of school they've missed than their classmates. I mean, it puts it in that perspective to where like, you know, they think it's normal to miss 30 days of school.
Right.
Which,
No.
How is it promoted to the students?
I don't know that it really
I
has
know,
been.
now that you're asking that, I mean, elementary wise, no, I don't think it has. I think they've shown it to them to say this is where you can go to look, but a lot of my elementary students aren't as concerned about.
I would think the high school would be, the kids would be more on it than grade school.
Yeah, and there's,
But the high school kids still have power school that they just will probably get through there.
if they, yeah.
But it shows that they're behind on their homework assignments, turn them in.
You know,
So, well, yeah.
Yeah.
She says there's a missing.
Especially when it came to like scholarship, things like that.
I mean,
That
it's-
was a great asset.
So I don't know, is that affecting?
It's just transitioning it over
But they're all
to.
just-
I think they can see more there in one place than they could on Power School if they got used to doing it.
Well,
I mean, they can see their grades and everything.
I personally like it because all these like testing scores that we've been talking about are all right there. Fastbridge is right there, Kansas State Assessment's right there, and they track them. So they have
get
like the
email?
past years of, well, last year you
Oh,
scored a
that's
2, this year you scored a 2 or a 3, or, you know, so that the
Like
parents can track it too.
Buffalo
Same thing with
Bulls.
Fastbridge. And so I personally,
Mhm.
that's worth
I-
a lot.
Text.
just thinking off the top of my head, I mean, I'm not a big, the bell work thing bothers me. Come in, here's an extra assignment before we start class. I don't necessarily like that. But what if, like, at the beginning of the day, that first 5 minutes of class or something, you know, because they all got a computer
Right.
up there, right?
Put in there, Jen.
Yeah, just say, okay, for the first 5 minutes, get on, check your stuff.
Right. Well, and he has
We had that seminar time,
that they
Yeah.
are supposed to
which is
be
definitely,
very simple, just an extra step at that
Yeah.
time.
and have them check their email, cause there's some that are really bad about that too.
Yeah. The counselor, I think, is sending out different things, like to the seniors, and then I have to ask, did you get an email? Yeah.
Any more discussion on this? Planning future goals, KSB, strategic planning?
Is this a yearly thing that we'll be paying for?
No, it's just a one time. Well, I say one time, but I mean the goals would go 3 to 5 years, and then it would be probably recommended to do it again at the end of that.
They would come here and, how long did you think this would take?
It'd be at least a couple nights with the big group. I think it's one night or one day with like the school admin, and then they would present it to the board, and I don't know how many steps that is, how many times that is.
So we can come back to if we wanna buy that next month, following month.
Yeah, we can do it tonight. I mean, it's low enough if it's a consensus of the board. I can go
Well,
get it set.
we discussed it 3 months ago or sometime, didn't we?
Mhm.
Yeah.
We just take
What do you think? Doing this over the summer would be the best time to,
I think I'd
Doesn't
talk with
matter.
them to see when the best time would be. Sometimes, I mean, it'd be nice to have it ready for the school year, but people are more engaged in when school's going on too, so.
maybe that would be, if you contact them to figure out what is the best time recommended to get this accomplished.
Are there any reasons not to approve it?
Can we approve
Can
it
we-
and then
Can we
find
approve
out
it?
when we
Yeah.
should do it?
Yeah.
I would be fine with that.
So motion, Jordan?
Sure, I'll move to spend the money with KSB for strategic planning. Hoorah.
We have a motion for the KSAB strategic planning
I'll second.
and second to be decided,
Yeah, be
at a later
determined on
date when the
date.
best time to do it is.
Yeah.
All those in favor? All opposed?
I don't know about your technical jargon.
We'll move on to
Okay.
25-142,
Stuttering and difficult I can make it.
administration report.
Does anybody need a break?
Yeah.
I'll move for 5-minute recess.
I'll second that one.
You say Matt needs
Have a motion for a 5-minute recess, for a second, all in favor? All opposed? correct?
Yes.
Yep.
25-142, administrative reports.
Groundbreaking's May 6th at 10. We're having a meeting with McCown and FPT on Wednesday afternoon to kind of discuss how that's going to look like. Sounds like they have a lot of the promotional materials for us, things like that. So there's that. We have 4 open seats this year for a board, and it said, I Googled it, so take that for what it's worth, but it's June 1st, and then that's on Sunday, so I decided it would be the next day. So the filing is June 2nd.
Who's up this year?
We've got Tim, Amber, Jordan, and Wiener.
Oh, Wiener. I thought you were, Terry was with us.
No, it was Terry, Matt, and I,
Oh, okay.
the Friday
Yeah.
before the fire.
Okay.
That it was.
Oh, yeah.
Cause he needed to get back on a 4-year term. He was or something too.
Yeah, there's
There's
jumbled
an
up
off
there.
year.
We're back on him.
So,
Fantastic.
I think we're supposed to put like an advertisement in the paper or something.
We get it to the county by May 1st.
Okay. Legislative, so, this is the earliest it's been since I've paid attention, but the legislature is done already. So, that's kind of interesting. They usually take like a 3 or 4 week break in April, and they took not a very long break.
Another one in May, and another one in June,
Yeah.
and another one in July. About 3 weeks of a break over a month.
So, anyways, Senate Bill 2, this one has passed. They're waiting for it to get through the whatever they call it. It's not a legislative council, but to be registered. But if you watch that issue, so Greeley County passed a bond, I think it was about a year ago. Greeley County doesn't have a website. The county doesn't, not the school. And it's supposed to be posted on the website. The election is supposed to be on there, and so now they've let them move forward, and it's just saying that if they have a website, they're supposed to use it. If not, then they don't have to. Let's see here. Senate Bill 114, authorizing non-public and virtual students to participate in ancillary public school activities and making it unlawful for Acacia school districts to discriminate against students based on enrollment status. I believe what that's saying is if we have local people who are in homeschool, then we're supposed to allow them in Acacia events. I think KSAB is going to have a policy for us to really outline what this
about
means.
the incurred cost due to that.
And then so this.
Sharon Springs is right in the middle of this right now. They have quite a few homeschool students participating in.
Which could have been avoided had their board just set a policy and
Well,
appropriately handled it.
yeah, I think that's a lot of it, figuring out what the policy is.
Well, they had the opportunity to set a policy and they chose not to. So,
Yeah.
So Senate Bill 45, excluding students who transfer to homeschools or non-accredited private schools or enroll in a school credit deficient from the alternative calculation of graduation rates. Basically, we're going to have 2 graduation rates now. So the second one is, one of those is how it's always been done. I guess number 1, because it's based off of the federal requirements. 2 is how it'll be calculated differently. Let's see here. They actually, I was in a meeting last week, they actually think it's actually going to help graduation rates. I don't know if that was the intention of it or not, but so, and then Bond elections, which doesn't pertain to us anymore, but they can only occur on 3 times a year: April, August, or November. I need to switch that. This should say April. Unless it was destroyed or substantially damaged, does not affect capital outlay tax levies. There must have been some talk about adding something into that. Change that. This is one for Open Records Act. This is more to law schools will put fees on it, which we're allowed to do. So if we have someone who gives us a big Open Records Act, then we can charge them basically for our time and basically give them the cost estimate, but we're only allowed to charge what it actually takes, basically is what this is saying. We'll get them, you know, I'll get an email every once in a while. I'll honestly wait for them to contact me again for it, because it'd take a lot of time for some of these.
When is this going to affect?
Probably July 1st.
What do you wait on?
If it's a local one, yes, I'm gonna do it. But we'll get I get an email from a place like in Indiana asking for that.
Gotcha.
So that's I just want to make sure they're gonna ask, you know, before we spend a lot of time, because they'll have a whole list of stuff that they want us to do. The other thing that this does is COMA now applies. So a lot of districts will have a subcommittee of board members. Like, let's say there's a facilities committee of 3 board members. COMA applies now to a quorum, if you have a quorum of the amount of the subcommittee. So if you have those 3, if 2 of them are at the meeting, a facilities committee meeting, then you have to follow Open Meetings Act and things. So that's going to be something that we could deal with later on. If a public body chooses to live stream a meeting, it must include all aspects, which we do that. I mean, the only time we turn it off is for executive session. Let's see here. So this is one Senate sub for House Bill 2382. This will be one that affects us. Requiring school districts to include a fetal development presentation as part of the curriculum for any course that addresses human growth, human development, or human sexuality. And they've basically, apparently the way that they've done this is they've basically said the video you have to use. And that curriculum actually starts like in kindergarten. So they're requiring that video be shown to every time that's discussed, basically. So that was vetoed by the governor, and the veto was overridden. The other part of that is the legislature gave themselves a raise, I think last session, a year ago, but they neglected to put the state board into that. Now they've allowed the state board to give themselves a pay raise, but they didn't give any more funding for it. So House Bill 2125, so that reauthorizes our 20 mills. That was up this year, and the people with KSD thought that they would try to attach a lot of other strings to it. That actually was relatively, they didn't really do that. Now, some things it does change, and that's actually, it's a lot clearer when we have to do it. So we've had like the revenue neutral rate. And so if we were not to, now we still have to notify the county clerk that we're exceeding the revenue neutral rate if we are. But, and that's at June, on or before July 20th. But, in the past, if you exceed the R&R, you have till September 20th to submit your budget. If you didn't exceed the R&R, then you would do it like what we had before, which is by August 25th. They've just said all budgets have to be done by September 20th now, is what the law said. If the school district does not submit a budget to the county clerk is supposed to use the previous year's budget. And then with the R&R form, the state has paid for it, and they added another year of paying for it, basically. So we shouldn't have a bill from the county when we do that. Some of the kind of things that we've had a Safe and Secure grant. That's $5 million. We asked for $6,000 for AEDs. I haven't really purchased those yet because there's actually discussion of taking that away for this year in this legislative session. And so all they did now, though, is take it away for next year. Professional development they cut. CT transportation, they did leave that in there. The mentor teacher program is cut. Science computer grants. Teachers of excellence, which is the national board certified. We're required to give a teacher who's national board certified $1,000. They had funds in there to pay for that. Now we're required to do it without getting paid for it, basically. I don't know what Spark Wheel is, but it says it's moved to DCF.
Does that have anything to do with the Head Start? Yeah, they were talking about cutting the funding for Head Start too.
I don't know. I'll have to look. Yeah. So the consensus estimates, $208 million, which would be like the base funding. Bed increase is $10 million, and that's additional. There's a plan to, over the next 5 years, that started last year, to get back on track. That was supposed to be $75 million this year. They only added $10 million to it. So we'll be paying more for special ed next year. That won't be covered. E-rate match, state match, that's from existing funds now. So they did add $10 million for a 2-year firearm detection software program for public schools. I think it's very specific on which company. And then after 2 years, the districts may continue with our funds. And then they added language to expand training efforts. This is your letters training and things like that. So that's another one of those that's district funds. And then add language allowing foreign exchange students who reside in the district to be permitted to enroll in that, subject to open seat lottery. So our base numbers, so in November estimate was 5611. They actually got those in last week, but I haven't heard, at the end of last week, but I haven't heard what our new number is. In the past couple of years, that number has actually gone down by $1 or $2, but they're expecting it to raise up a little bit. So this year, what we budgeted was off of an FTE of 736, which is our budget of $3,958,208. If we had that same number, it would be 5611 of the new base number, which is 5611. Our budget would be $4,129,696. Now, I don't expect it to be that high because this is where our enrollment's gonna start getting us. We're supposed to have in the old way that they did it, we had an extra year to kind of help us with that. And now it's just down to 2 years, which this is that year. So this should be our first year it really affects our budget. I need to go through and really look at those numbers before I give an estimate on it. The good thing is if we get a bump up with our student count, it'll actually, we don't have to wait a year for it to help us. So if we do come back in September or August and we have more kids with more multipliers, it'll help us faster. Just some things like what we talked about, the increasing special ed. And then we haven't heard from our insurance on either one of them yet, our health or our property. So that is my report.
Okay. Jeffrey?
Sure. Since we last met, we had our prom on the 5th. From all accounts I've gotten, it went well. Thanks to all of our junior sponsors for all their hard work. Mrs. Bass. Asked her what she's going to do with all her free time now. As well as the juniors for hosting that and putting that on. And I'd also like to thank our after prom committee for all the work they put into it, and all the local sponsors who give out amazing prizes. So pretty cool event. That same day as prom, we had a small ensemble contest in Oberlin, and our choir did qualify for the state ensemble contest, which is coming up here. I had it. 26th, yes, this Saturday. So good luck to them. Let's see, what else do I have? After our local e-fair, Jay Doty qualified for the state e-fair, which was this last week, but she was unable to attend due to some sickness. Last Wednesday, we took our 8th graders and our 10th graders to Oberlin to Reality U. They do a questionnaire beforehand. They make some decisions. Part of it's based off of their GPA, actually, but whether they're going to be married, job choices, and those kind of things. And it sets a monthly budget for them and their spouse, or if they're single. And then they go through a simulation where they buy a house, they buy a car, groceries, childcare, unexpected. They roll dice to see an unexpected life event, whether it's they get money or they lose money, they have a ticket, their car breaks down, and they have to figure out how to make it through a month. So run out of money, you can go get a second job, you can go back, sell your car, get a different car. The kids seem to like it. I mean, I think there's a lot of good that comes out of it. They see this number and think it's a lot of money, and then they go through the simulation and it doesn't go near as far as you think. So they've been gracious enough to invite us the last 2 years. We're going to continue to do it if they'll have us, and talks of being able to use our facilities to bounce back and forth between the two places. Because it does take a bunch of local people to come in and help and set up the tables to go through the simulation. So thank you to Oberlin for that.
I can't believe you like
Our juniors took ACT tests on the 8th. So hopefully they all did their best and did well. We did that at the Columbian Hall. And some parents did serve them all breakfast before that day. So, and what else do I have? State powerlifting, that was in Claflin a couple weeks ago. And we had how many? 5 kids go.
Yep.
So,
haven't been there for 5 years. So
5 years.
it's nice to know.
So we have had a kind of a resurgence of powerlifting this year. We've taken some years off, but there's been enough interest in the kids. We picked it back up this year, so it's good. And then I have a part here. Let me find my note. High school art students had a successful showing at the Fort Hays State Art Show. Students were awarded 37 awards. Mrs. Brin said this is a record. Xanthier Brin received the first with his batik. Claire Caston received second with her pastel. Brad Casper received third for a sculpture. There were several students offered scholarships to Fort Hays State Art Department if they choose to pursue that after high school. While they were there as well, the students were able to watch demonstrations in every media type that the Fort Hays State Art Department offers. Pretty cool experience. They have their new technology building and their art department is really, really new and an amazing facility. So, and then Mrs. Bren would also like to remind board and admin that our local art show will be at the Shirley Opera House next week. You, the board and admin, are invited to the reception on Monday, April 28th, 6:30 to 8. And then the general student body and public and everybody else is invited on Tuesday, the 29th, 8 to 4, to come view all of the great artwork that our students do.
What time was the 28th?
The reception was Monday evening, the 28th, 6:30 to 8. So that's kind of a closed reception for, I think it's more family and then board admin, those types of things, and an invite type deal. I think that's all I have. Finishing up state testing.
Oh, the basketball thing.
Oh, yes. We received a sportsmanship award from Keisha. And I was, is it directly tied to basketball or was it, okay, to our teams and our fans? Voted on by the league, I believe. So, and they did that statewide. So we were recipients of that. So.
And the FFA dinner.
FFA banquet was, yes. When was that? Last week or 2 weeks ago? It all starts together.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And then didn't Kennedy, who went to Manhattan, Deb took him or went with him?
Deb. Kennedy went to Manhattan last
Kennedy
week.
did go?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She was
How
gone
did I
2
miss that?
days. She was gone the 16th and 17th. We asked Deb to
I
go
missed that.
because our, I think Mr. Schromick had a
apologize, I missed
birthday
that.
or whatnot. It was a learning experience
Yeah.
for her. It's a big deal. Network Kansas has a big hand in it. They give a lot of money away. It's a pretty good deal. I would suggest Joe go next year. I mean, it would be very beneficial to build that. I mean, the highest prize was $2,500. I mean, and then it went from like 14 to 16 to, I mean, it was crazy. And then the students got $500 just for being there. So, and she did the design challenge the night before. That was optional. That was a 4-hour thing where you go in. They bring real businesses in, and you join together with a group of 4 or 5 people that you don't know, and you work together to market for their business. And there was a winner for that too. I mean, it was quite a deal. So, but it was a good experience for her, and I'm proud of her that she went. So, so that was a lot for her.
I apologize, I missed that.
She looked great. Pictures were amazing.
Yeah, I just
It was fun to see her.
Snap picture. I didn't post anything about it.
I think Deb did, didn't she? She put
Did she? I guess I haven't
I thought
even
that's
looked
where I
at it.
saw it on Facebook,
But no, I was glad that she went. Well, I mean, yeah, it was a good thing. So,
Good.
so yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Okay, so I just asked my teachers what they wanted to report, so I'm sure we left things out too. Because it seemed like a blur sometimes. Kindergarten went on a field trip to the Judy McCarty Dairy Learning Center at Rexford, and they said it was amazing. They just had opened it up, and it's amazing. Like they had the Dannon yogurt or the McCarty Dairy, that's what they do, and they loved it. BAPS also helped out with the donation of $500, and so they were able to eat at McDonald's, and they got some t-shirts that were donated, and they played in the park at Colby before returning to school. We did have our kindergarten roundup. We had a lot of brand new families too, so that's exciting to see. Like, it's not just some of the same families, like it's actually young, new families coming in, and it's good for us. Kindergarten also has their live caterpillars, and they're learning about hatching painted lady butterflies that they will be releasing before the end of the school year, so exciting. Kindergarten and first grade have also been down to the story walk at the lake to enjoy some of that down there. Fifth grade just went to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science with some of the money that they have raised too, from selling their different flowers, bulbs, tulips, daffodils. Not nearly as much money as they usually make, but I think it was worth trying something different too. So tomorrow they will be going to tea at Kathy Horton's house. They've been talking about like the American Revolution and the Boston Tea Party, and it's just a good way to get in some etiquette. And Kathy does a fantastic job. We actually had Paul Revere's ride that came through on Thursday.
Cleaners laughing.
Which part would you like to attend? Tea?
You wanna go to tea at Kathy's Wiener? We can give you the same talk we gave the kids, don't touch anything.
Probably not
Keep up.
suitable.
It's amazing. We talk about like those soft skills that kids just don't get anymore. This is, she said last year, I think it was the first year they'd really done it, and I think the students even enjoyed it. Like they dressed up and were very well mannered, and it was good for all of them. So we're excited to see how fifth grade does this year. I'm sure they're thrilled too. But Kathy does a great job. She has like actual snacks and different things for them. So Wednesday we will have Ag Safety Day at the grade school that they've been working on, and just to get the schedule just today. So it'll be a busy day. It starts at 8:15 and done at like 3:15. So busy day. We have the third grade and the sixth grade that will be going to the Owls Trail. Sixth grade goes, I think, this Friday. Fourth grade is working on an entrepreneur type Shark Tank project with Mrs. Juneman on some different things that they're working on. So kind of along the lines that you're just talking about with Kennedy, like start it now, let them start thinking about some different things, and it's all good stuff. We did, I think, set the music program for the elementary school Tuesday, May 13th at 7. And I think the high school is Monday the 12th. I'm not sure what time though, because we thought Monday would be better for those seniors since they've just graduated if they have family still in town for a Monday night. So then we'll take
7, I believe.
7. We're getting ready for summer school. We'll have 2 sessions. One will be May 27th through June 6th, and then the second one will be August 4th through the 14th. And so letters will be going home fairly soon to get ready for that. Third and fourth grade science has been learning about forces and energy. Third grade design, built, and tested paper bridges to see which can hold the most weight, and fourth grade built paper roller coasters to test gravitational energy. First grade just got their caterpillars into, and we'll be watching them change and learning about the life cycle. And we just finished up our Kansas State assessments. And I think the teachers did a good job of encouraging the students. Parents did a fantastic job of providing snacks and treats and everything.
Sorry.
But I think that's about it. I'm sure there's more, but.
Okay.
We will have lots of field trips, small field trips coming up just around town. I know third grade's going to Mojo's and the bank. They get a grant from Overt to go to, they get the money at the bank, at the Farmers Bank and Trust. They give them $5 or what each, and then they go spend it directly at Mojo's. So a little bit of consumer.
Do they still go to Hawkins Pond?
They are not doing Hawkins Pond this year. They're going to do Crystal Springs. They talked with Gordon, and he just wasn't able to get it all together again this year. So they will be going to Crystal Springs instead. So that'll be different.
First grade.
First grade. So if anybody wants to help,
That's where I got
first
thrown
grade.
in to learn to swim.
Well,
First grade.
next year.
Yeah.
It was this deep on me when I was 5.
Crystal
I
Springs.
got drowned.
Well, you're gonna need to.
10 minutes.
That's like a traumatic.
10 minutes for the,
So does that trigger you when you hear that?
that's probably,
Yeah, 9 more.
Great.
great.
Jordan,
10 minutes for
Tim, 10 minutes. Somebody?
We'll move to go into executive session for non-elected personnel, 10 minutes, board and admin.
We have a motion to go into executive session for non-elected personnel board and admin. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And we have a second by Matt. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, go back in. Is there any action?
Oh, yeah. I move that we, hire Donna, how do you say her name? Boucher?
Yeah.
Boucher. For RCHS custodian.
I'll second.
Well, motion to hire Donna Lucio for the custodian at high school, and a second, all those in favor? We need to vote on it.
Yes.
We need to, I make a motion to amend the agenda to add a student issue. Need a second?
Yep, as an executive session, yeah, I was at
Executive session, yeah.
No, I'm just saying the agenda.
Yeah, to amend the agenda. Yes. We have a motion and a second to amend the agenda to include student issues. All those in favor? All opposed? Now we have 5 minutes.
If there's an opportunity to use something.
Are we correct so far, Matt?
As correct as I can get it.
I keep looking. Make sure you go.
I'll move to go into executive session for 5 minutes for student issues, board and admin.
Second.
We have a motion for 5 minutes, board and admin, student issues. There a second? All those in favor? All opposed?
you say that?
Because I like to go back in for the same thing, like, at least 4 times.
We're back in, give 5 minutes to,
Taking it out?
negotiation.
All right, we'll go into executive session. Board and admin, 5 minutes for negotiations.
I second it.
We have a motion for 5 minutes, board and admin for negotiation, and a second. All those in favor? All opposed? Again,
At least.
no action. Where we go? Coaching?
Yeah.
Coaching evaluation. How many we got?
3 sets.
1, 2, 3, 15 minutes, 20?
10 or 15? I'll be ready 20.
We'll go into executive session this morning. Executive session with the board admin and, Dion Verenick, for winter coach evaluations. For 15 minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion for 15 minutes for winter coaching evaluation, board admin and Dion for 15 minutes and a second. All in favor? Opposed? 4, 3,
5 enough?
5 enough?
Depends on, I'll make a motion to go in executive session for 10 minutes.
I'll second it.
For Ford, Jeff, and Lacey.
Board, and then, board, superintendent, and what about, and Lacey, Jeff? Okay,
And stepdaughter.
all right.
And Dion, you Dion in there?
And Dion.
Dealing with first one. For 10 minutes? We have a second? All those in favor?
You already.
Sorry.
They're-
We're back in session.
Thank you.
Do we have some action on wrestling coaches?
I'll make the motion, renew the wrestling coaches from last year, Scott Urban, Wayne Lanning, and Kai Morrison.
A second? A motion for renewing Scott Irvin, Wayne Lanning, Ty Morrison for next year's wrestling coaches. All those in favor? All opposed? High school girls basketball coach. I'll make a motion to renew high school girls basketball coach Mike Lankus and Tony Colwell.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to renew high school girls basketball coaches. All those in favor? All opposed? Boys basketball.
I move that we approve Tyler Blair and Sam Kraus. Tyler is the head and Sam Kraus is the assistant for boys basketball.
I'll second.
Motion for boys basketball coach and a second. All those in favor? Opposed?
Okay, I'll make a motion, review the junior high girls basketball coaches, Gracie Singer and Madeline Williams.
I'll second it.
Motion for girls basketball coach, junior high, Grayson and Madeline Williams. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay. What do we got left? Certified staff. How many minutes we need? 2 minutes?
Right, pretty much.
We need a motion for certified staff. 10 minutes?
10 minutes. Sorry. I know, that's why I was asking. I move that we go into executive session for certified staff, board and admin for 10 minutes. Second.
Motion, second for 10 minutes for certified staff. Board admin and board admin.
Yeah.
All those in favor? All opposed?
Well, we're passing them. That's how it can be. No, I was.
You got this, Tim?
Oh, do I have to read them all?
No.
Is this one of those? So I'm gonna forfeit to him.
Last year we did that.
We would, I would, did we officially announce that we're back in?
Yes.
I would make a motion to, approve the certified staff as presented to us.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to extend contracts to certified staff. All those, and a second, all those in favor? Opposed?
All right, Terry.
And I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that one.
And we have a second, all those in favor?